All right, we are all watching and waiting. This city hall has been evacuated. There's been a bomb square, and it's been closed off, and people have been moved back past Market Street. We're just sitting, waiting, and watching, and finding out more information as everybody else does. And when we know more, we will pass it along to you. Welcome back to Big 550 KTRS. It's our KPLR 11.2 hour. It's 11.2 if you have an HD antenna, and it's channel 187 on your Charter communications system. Joining us now is Tony Messenger, who's the editorial page editor of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Tony, good morning. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, McGraw. How you doing?
Good. Before we get started, I know you have absolutely nothing to do with the photography department, but it is all part of your organization. Congratulations on a well-earned Pulitzer the other day.
Thank you. We're very pleased and proud of our photographers for what they did, and also proud of the Pulitzer finalist designation we got on the editorial page. So it's a good day to be at the Post-Dispatch.
Good, great. Thanks for joining us. We called you in. You guys, your board, your staff wrote this editorial about the Normandy School District. It was a major topic of conversation before Michael Brown burst onto the scene, and that story. Now they're back at it again. It's a somewhat of a convoluted story. I'll let you try and explain it, but you are very unhappy with what the legislature down in Jefferson City is actually not doing. Fill us in.
Yeah, it's more about what they're not doing. So for 3 years now, we have had this major situation regarding Normandy Public Schools, regarding Riverview Gardens, and potentially a whole lot of other schools because of this transfer law that was passed years ago that had been subject of multiple lawsuits, and the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again now that the transfer law is constitutional. What it says is that if you are in a school district that becomes unaccredited, you as a student have a right to go to an accredited school district in an adjoining county. And the problem is the law has never clarified who pays for that tuition and how much tuition does it cost for you to go from, say, Normandy to Clayton or Ladue or Francis Howell and St. Charles or Melville, as some students have done. And so what's happened is that the suburban school districts have all used the law the way it exists and charged multiple different amounts of tuition to Normandy students. So the Normandy School District is paying $7,200 to send your kid to one school district and up to $20,000 to send a different kid to a different school district because the school districts in suburban St. Louis refuse to recognize the reality of the situation, and that is that they're going to bankrupt the Normandy School District. And so the problem is the legislature has had 3 years to fix this, and they have refused to do so because they continually get caught up in various conflicts over what reform is going to be part of the legislation, and they won't make the most simple fix, which is just to cap the tuition. Make sure that the Normandy School District isn't paying more out than it's actually spending on its own kids. And that's what's going on. It's highway robbery. It's horrible. And they're going to bankrupt Normandy again. And then Normandy is going to basically be folded into another district. And then we're going to start this whole ugly process all over again. And it's because this region will not take responsibility for poor black kids who live in the city, who live in the county. That's the bottom line. That's what the legislature is refusing to do, and it makes me very angry.
Okay, so back up a second here. Why is it that the incoming school district, do they just arbitrarily set a number on this student who comes in from Normandy?
There is another portion of law somewhere that sort of gives them the right to determine how to set that tuition, and that's the part of the law that needs to be fixed. And it allows all the districts to decide differently based on whatever the existing bond issues are in that school district and everything else. It's a great example, again, of how divided St. Louis County is. 24 school districts all charging different amounts to educate the same kids. And here's the deal. Almost every school district in St. Louis County already participates in the voluntary inter-district choice program with the city of St. Louis. This is the post-desegregation program that allows kids from the city of St. Louis to transfer to suburban school districts if they want to. And all of the school districts who participate, almost all the school districts in the county, have agreed that they'll take $7,000. That's the tuition, because they realize that that's about the amount of state aid that flows with the kid that would have gone to St. Louis, and incrementally taking a few extra kids is not going to cause them extra expense. They're not adding teachers in these school districts because they got 2 new third graders. They're not adding buildings in these school districts because they got 2 new fourth graders. So they've all agreed to do this for the VIC program, and they've been doing it for years, and nobody's going broke off of it, either the sending district, St. Louis, or the receiving districts in the suburbs. And all we've asked the legislature to do, a whole bunch of advocates for schools and for kids have asked the legislature to do, is adopt that same cap, adopt the same tuition that you're already accepting for the same kids who live across an arbitrary line, drawn years ago that says these kids can go to your school for $7,000, but these kids who live 2 blocks away, we're going to charge you $20,000. It's just insane, and it makes no sense.
You point out in the editorial at stltoday.com that Brentwood could charge a Normandy kid $7,236 and then charge a Riverview Gardens kid who lives a few blocks away $17,000 to go to educate the kid.
And that's exactly what they're doing. Those are numbers I got from Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
A couple years ago, the legislature passed a bill, and it was vetoed by Governor Nixon. In that bill, was there not a cap on this? In that bill?
No, that bill didn't deal with the tuition cap either. They're refusing to deal with the tuition cap because there are too many people who live in St. Louis County who don't want to do it. And there are school boards who aren't courageous enough to take the vote. I believe that the majority of superintendents in St. Louis County recognize this problem, and if they had their druthers and didn't have to face school boards, and school boards didn't have to face angry voters who want to protect their taxpayer dollars over doing the right thing for kids, then this problem would be solved. But you have lawmakers and school board members who are afraid to face angry white suburban voters, and that's the crux of the problem.
The first year Normandy was allowed, or the people who lived in Normandy were allowed to go to different schools, and the money followed them into these schools. Didn't the legislature have to appropriate extra money to Normandy because they ran out of money?
Yes.
It's like a tune of like $5 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, and this time they're just going to go broke, and what's going to happen? And the State Board of Education's already told them they've already done the math that if they don't put a tuition cap in, because of the number of kids who have already signed up to transfer next year, they'll go broke. And so Normandy will cease to exist, and the state will once again say to those kids and those parents in North St. Louis County, you don't matter, your district no longer exists, and then that district is going to become part of U City or Pattonville or Ferguson Florissant or whatever decision the State Board of Education ends up making. And we will have an incredibly angry summer of these parents and kids being passed around by pawns by the state, once again proving that this state and this region isn't willing to take seriously this problem, because it's such a simple fix. If they cap the tuition at $7,000 per kid, Normandy doesn't cease to exist. Normandy still has enough money to try to fight through and make the improvements that they're working on right now. And those kids who decide that they don't want to stay at Normandy and go to another school district will still have that option and that opportunity. And if the legislature decides not to deal with this, then Normandy goes away, and it's on there.
Tony Mester, one more question for you, more numbers for you. You write in this editorial that you asked the question, is it okay for Clayton, one of the richest districts in the state, to charge $20,000 per transfer student, Ladue to charge $14,000, or St. Charles to charge $14,000? Is that the price that the school, quote-unquote, charges for a student who lives in that district?
that is the price that they argue is the combination of state aid and whatever tax base has been set within the local parameters of the school district. So because the local voters in Clayton or Ladue have agreed to tax themselves at a higher amount than the folks in Normandy have, that's the additional cost. And they believe that their taxpayers want to be made whole. And so that's the amount that they're charging kids from Normandy. So the situation we have right now is that a school district that is unaccredited and was having a hard enough time doing a good job educating its kids in North St. Louis County is now paying more than twice what they were spending on their own kids to have them educated somewhere else. And Clayton hasn't added teachers. It hasn't added tutors. It hasn't added new buildings because these are incremental costs that are passed on. It's pocketing that extra money, and that, to me, is just criminal.
Tony Messenger, the website, stltoday.com. Go to the opinion tab, and you can read the editorial as well as all the other editorials out there. Tony, thanks for checking in on a busy morning.
Thanks, McGraw.
921 here, Big 550, KTRS. The editorial, the legislature is poised to bankrupt Normandy schools once again, stltoday.com. St. Louis